Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. It's a midweek edition. That means the college basketball top 10. I'm also looking at some bubble teams today. Might get a little controversial. We'll talk about 8 bubble teams that I've seen typically on the bubble. Looking at some Big Ten, some power conference teams. I got 4 of them against 4 of the mid majors, and I'll break down why I think these mid majors are more deserving of these bubble spots. But probably not super likely to take them over these power conference teams just based on the dynamics within the college basketball landscape today. But college basketball heavy program today. Timberwolves picked up a win last night. Not again a great performance, but Jaden and Anthony Edwards take control late and they pull it out again. Portland had some great college games. The section tournaments in girls basketball are going on. A lot of games tonight and tomorrow, so check those out. And some huge games, again, going back to the A topic today in today's podcast, college basketball. Big games tonight on Wednesday and big games next Saturday as well coming up. So if you're into college basketball, it's a huge week for you, as they all are in the next 6 weeks or so. But with that, let's get into it. Hey, everyone, it's time for my weekly college basketball top 10 rankings. And we got some shakeup after last weekend, notably in the top spot as Duke overtakes Michigan, courtesy of their big win head-to-head last weekend at a neutral site in Washington, D.C. I was skeptical. I have been big fans of Michigan, a little bit nervous about Duke's perimeter play, their guard play, inconsistencies there, at least on the offensive end, and then also the foul trouble aspect for Duke. Boozer had 4 fouls, but Gungba stays out of foul trouble, so they are able to challenge Michigan around the basket, keep Morez Johnson and Lendenborg at bay. So I actually have Duke in the number 1 spot. Now they have the number 1 in the net rankings. However, Michigan still, by a slim margin, is number 1 in both Ken Pom and Bart Torvik. So this is really a 1A, 1B type of situation. And actually, you could add a third team and go 1C, and you have Arizona. They win at Houston, looked really impressive doing it. That looked like more of the Arizona team that we've come to expect this season after back-to-back losses to Kansas and Texas Tech in overtime. And, you know, looking at the rest of the road for Arizona, they have Kansas at home. They have Iowa State at home. So their 2 toughest remaining games at home. And then they go to Colorado. So theoretically, they could be 29-2 heading into the Big 12 tournament. So Arizona really like their position right now as well. So those 3 teams, I think, have kind of elevated themselves away from the rest a little bit. Still certainly capable of making Final Fours, still certainly capable of winning a national title. But I got Duke, Michigan, Arizona, top 3 right now. Number 4 this week, I have Iowa State. They're number 8 in Ken Pom. They are number 8 in the net, but I actually really like that they have some big wins. They've beaten Kansas. They've beaten Houston. Both of those happen to be at home. We all know about Hilton Magic, Hilton Coliseum, but I think really to elevate Iowa State in the rankings, they're going to have to win a game away from home. They go to Arizona next Monday, which should be a really interesting game. Before that, they get Texas Tech at home. Now, without Toppin, Texas Tech still capable, but I think Iowa State can get past Texas Tech. Number 5, I have UConn. Now, they've slipped a little bit in the metrics. They are number 12 in Ken Pom. They are number 9 in Bart Torvik, and they are number 10 in the net rankings. However, in my opinion, just looking at it from a who do I think are the best teams if they went head to head, who would win? And I got UConn still at number 5. So the really only bad loss this year was at home to Creighton on the 18th, but they rebounded with a nice win at Villanova last Saturday. Tonight, the 25th, they get St. John's, which will be a big game for them. Revenge game. They lost to them earlier at Madison Square Garden. So UConn picks that win up. And, you know, that kind of puts them in the driver's seat back to tied in the Big East Conference with St. John's. And I think that's another win that they're going to need If UConn wins out and they end the season with 3 losses going into the Big East tournament, I don't know how you can project anything other than a potential Final Four pick from UConn because of the pedigree of that team. Number 6, I have a team that UConn beat head-to-head, and that's Florida. Florida is really playing well right now. They have won their last 7 games in the SEC, excuse me. And I really like the way their guards have started to play. Now, there's a couple teams here. Florida, kind of like Arizona, doesn't shoot a ton of threes, and the ones they do, they're not great percentage-wise, but they're so good in the front court that they can make up for that. Some of the few teams in college basketball who don't put an emphasis on three-point shooting. So Florida is sitting at 21-6 right now. They've only have 2 losses since the calendar flipped to 2026. They get Texas and Arkansas this week. Arkansas at home. Big game there in the SEC. And then they finish with Mississippi State and at Kentucky. So 3-1, I could see going there. Florida right now is on top of the SEC. And if they even take one more loss, they're still likely to win that league. So a Florida team coming up, a championship, winning the SEC outright. Pretty hard to keep them out of the top 10 rankings. Next, I have Houston at number 7. They're 6th in Ken Pom. They are 6th in Bart Torvik. Now, they have 3 straight losses, but those 3 losses are at Iowa State, home against Arizona, and at Kansas. That might be the toughest 3-game stretch any team will play all year. Their offense is a concern for me. They last year relied so much on Juwan Roberts inside scoring, especially late in games when they needed a bucket, they could go to him. And they just don't really have that presence right now. They were hoping that was going to be Chris Sanak, freshman, but he hasn't provided that. And Joseph Tugler is a great defensive player, one of the best defensive players in college basketball, but he's not really an offensive player. So they're relying on a lot of jump shots from Kingston Flemings and Milos Uzan and Manuel Sharp. And then even the other night against Kansas, you saw some Mercy Miller get more minutes than he is typically playing. So that you can tell Houston's trying to create, they're taking more outside shots to pull up jumpers, which Flemings is great at, but they're going to have to find a way to get to the rim, to finish around the basket. Maybe it's lobs, something like that. But they finish now that 3-game stretch is out. They got Colorado, Baylor, Oklahoma State. They should win those 3 games. So they should finish at 26-5. And, outside of Arizona losing 2, right now Houston's 2 games back at Arizona. So Arizona likely to win the Big 12 this year. But you got Houston, Iowa State, Kansas right there, 2 games back. Number 8 this week, I have Purdue. They're 7th in Ken Pom. They are number 7 in Torvik, and they are 6th in the net rankings. Like Purdue a lot. I've been a little bit flummoxed by their season, though. Really had high expectations. They get blown out at home against Iowa State in December. They lose at UCLA. They lose at home to Illinois. They lose at Indiana. And then they weren't even really competitive with Michigan at home. I know it was an 11-point game, but Michigan was in control of that game throughout the whole entirety of it. Purdue finishes with Michigan State, Ohio State, Northwestern, Wisconsin. If they can get Michigan State at home and finish out the season, they get Wisconsin at home. And so then you're looking at a team that goes 16-4 in the Big Ten. They will not catch Michigan. Michigan's going to win the Big Ten. But 16-4 in the Big Ten is going to be good for 2nd or 3rd place. They're going to probably finish at 26-5. That's a great season by most standards. Purdue had really high expectations this year. But I still think, I trust Matt Painter and Braden Smith, Kaufman Wren. Fletcher Lawyer is kind of the wild card for me. Like if he's making shots, they're going to be pretty good, but him and Cox need to make shots for that team. I do think Purdue finishes strong and gets a run going here in the Big Ten tournament. At number 9, I have maybe a little bit of a surprise. I have Virginia this week. I watched Virginia in person last week. I was in Atlanta for work, saw them play at Georgia Tech. Not a great opponent to see them play, but they demolished NC State this week as well. Virginia's only got 3 losses on the season. So I'm really digging Virginia. I think they're quietly one of the better teams in college basketball. 3 losses. They lost in November to Butler. That's not a great loss. They lost to Virginia Tech in triple overtime, and they lost to North Carolina by 5. So those are their 3 losses. Now, the big game for them, they have coming up Saturday at Duke. Don't really expect them to win, but I do look forward to the matchup between DeRitter for Virginia and Boozer. I think Virginia's guards are really dynamic, and that's going to present a challenge to Duke's guards. Foster and Evans and Dame Sarr, really good defensive. Caden Boozer, really good defensive players. But that's going to be a challenge, I think, for Duke. That game, I believe, will be closer than some of the projections think and some of the lines I've seen. So watch out for that game. But really high on Virginia. Really like that team. They beat Ohio State in a neutral court game as well. So that's another nice win for them. So if they get that Duke win, they jump up into that, I think, that number 3 seed in the NCAA tournament conversation, possibly 2 seed if they win out, maybe win the ACC tournament or lose in the title game. So Virginia, really good squad. Keep an eye on them. And then I'm going to finish off my top 10 this week with Gonzaga. They're 10th in Ken Palm. They are 16th in Torvik, which is a drop, but they're 5th in the net rankings. So pick your metric there that you like. Bottom line for me is they keep winning. So they've lost to Michigan, and then they had that clunker against Portland, but they beat Santa Clara twice, who's probably going to be a tournament team. They beat St. Mary's. They get them again this weekend. So they get a revenge game against Portland tonight. They get St. Mary's Saturday. They win both of them. They finish the season at 29-2. I mean, this is just what Mark Few does, right? Like, you know, if you told us going into the year that Gonzaga was going to be 29-2 with the schedule that they played, you'd be like, they're going to be a 1 or 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. But because they lost to a Portland team that's not very good, we knocked them down a peg. I still think Mark Few and Gonzaga is poised to make the second weekend of the tournament. They're going to probably win the West Coast Conference regular season, and they're probably going to win the West Coast Conference tournament. But they have more challengers this year. St. Mary's and Santa Clara are both likely tournament teams. Those are really good teams out in the West Coast Conference. Braden Huff still remains out for Gonzaga, so that's a tough loss for them. But if the hope is in 3 weeks he's back and he's playing in the NCAA tournament, I like their chances to make a run again with this squad. So that's my top 10 college basketball rankings for the week, February 25th, 2026. Like I said, a lot of games tonight, a lot of big games this weekend. So this could dramatically change by the time we talk in a week. But as of the 25th, this is what I got. Duke, Michigan, Arizona starting to separate at the top. All right, now let's take a look at the bubble. This is one of the most debated topics in college basketball every year. We get to March, we get to the selection show, who got in, who didn't get in. And I like to do this thing. Again, I'm a total junkie here, but there's this bracketology comparison sheet where you can take different teams and it compares their resumes against each other, right? So I've been doing this for a couple of years. And, this year I'm looking at resumes from 4 or 5 of the quote unquote bubble teams: Ohio State, Auburn, Indiana, TCU, power conference teams. And then I'm looking at like Santa Clara, New Mexico, San Diego State, and VCU, these mid-major teams that are really good, top of their league, but maybe not automatic bids if they don't win their conference tournament. And once again, we have to have the same conversation we have every single year. Are we going to reward teams that actually win games, or are we going to keep handing out gold stars to these power conference teams because they play in these big leagues? They get 20 games against quad 1 teams, but they lose. They lose most of them. The reason they're called power conference teams is because they have all the power. So that you've seen these leagues like the Big Ten and the SEC try to get bigger so they can get more teams in the tournament, which means more revenue for that league. And, we're basically rewarding mediocre work with NCAA tournament bids at this point. So I wanted to look at a few of these resumes. All right, so I actually took the data out of the bracketologist format and put in a spreadsheet so I could filter and manipulate, because that's who I am. But just wanted to call out here a couple things. So first of all, like when I look at Auburn, right? The committee and metrics love their strength of schedule. Well, you're played out in the Players Era Festival. You play in the SEC, so you got this number one strength of schedule, right? Um, and they have a strong out of conference strength of schedule. So kudos to them. Their record right now is 15-13. So you took this number one schedule and you are winning half of your games. To me, that doesn't tell me a whole lot. That tells me that you can't beat any good teams. Right now, they are 7-13 combined in quad one and quad two games. Quad one games being versus the top teams in the net. Quad two, middle group, obviously, and then it depends on if it's home or away. You can look up that on your own time. But compare that to say, like, let's look at New Mexico, right? Strength of schedule is not as high, but their net ranking, their KenPom, their T rank, all within the realm of Auburn. But they're 8-6 in quad one and quad two. That tells me they can actually win these games that they play, these quad one, quad two games. Most of those are quad two. That's the Mountain West, right? But when you look at Auburn, they're 2-2 in quad two. So they have more losses in quad two than New Mexico does. New Mexico has a quad three loss, which hurts them. Let's look at another one, though. Like, we got VCU here. Same thing, right? They're middle of the road. They're in the 40s in the net and the Torvik and all this stuff. Strength of schedule is not great. Wins above bubble 50, so the lowest of this group that I was looking at here. But they're 21-7. To me, the wins have to mean something. I would rather a team finish second or third in their conference, in a good conference, than be 500 in a big conference. Because I've seen Ohio State, I've seen Auburn, I've seen Indiana and TCU. Auburn right now, and I know the committee doesn't take this into account, Auburn has lost 6 of their last 7 games. The committee looks at your overall record, strength, your resume, right? A win in November means the same in March. To me, that's, first of all, asinine. A team changes through the course of the year. The idea that you're playing your best basketball in January, February, and March should mean something. You've had to make adjustments. You've had to tweak things. Let's talk about Ohio State and Indiana. Ohio State's 17-10. Indiana's 17-11. Their quad one games, Ohio State's 1-9. They have won 1 game out of 10 against quad one opponents. Indiana has won 2 out of 12. You have been given more opportunities and done nothing. How are we supposed to say that you are worthy of being in the NCAA tournament? I do not understand this logic that the committee takes with this regard. Let's look at Ohio State. Okay, so they have a bad, and then we'll talk about teams that, they got this bad loss. Ohio State lost to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not a great team. Let's see, their best win this year their best win is against Wisconsin. Very good win, came at the right time. Their best win is over the 28th ranked KenPom team, Wisconsin. Their next best win is 41st UCLA, and then it's USC and Minnesota and West Virginia. Those are their best wins. Ohio State, to me, has no business being on the bubble right now. Let's talk about Indiana. So Indiana is 42nd in KenPom. They have lost 3 in a row. Illinois and Purdue, totally understandable. But you've also lost home game to Northwestern. You lost to Iowa, who's another kind of bubble team. You lost to Minnesota. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to think about these teams. So again, March Madness is supposed to be about finding the champion, right? Discovering the champion. It's not the mediocre teams get rewarded. Right now, Ohio State and Indiana are sitting at 9th and 10th in the Big Ten. 9th and 10th. And they're on the bubble. Compared to like VCU. Let's take VCU, for instance. 21-7 on the year. They're sitting at second in the A10 behind St. Louis. And VCU's played in their non-con. Utah State lost by 3. NC State lost by 6. Vandy 15. New Mexico lost by 3. St. Louis 9. They lost to George Mason and they lost to St. Louis again. So they have 5 losses to the top 27 teams in KenPom. So I look at this and I say, I want to see mid-majors. I want to see Cinderella. I want to see underdogs. They need a chance. The A10 should have more than one team in the tournament. The Mountain West should have more than 2 teams in the tournament. San Diego State, right? 17-8 on the year. Played a tougher schedule. Out of conference schedule, especially 47th. It's in the top half of this group. And they're 500 in quad 1 and quad 2. 500. TCU is 8-9. New Mexico's 8-6. Santa Clara's 8-5. These teams deserve a chance. Ohio State, Auburn, Indiana, they've had chances. They've had more chances than most teams get. Auburn's played 20 games in quad 1 and quad 2. And they've won a third of them. Indiana's played 15 games. They have not won a third of their games in quad 1 and quad 2. Santa Clara's played 13 and they've won more than half. And New Mexico's won more than their half. San Diego State's won exactly half. And VCU is 1 game below 500 in quad 1 and quad 2 games. To me, the case is pretty clear. I don't want to see another middle-of-the-road power program in the tournament. I want to see Michigan, Purdue, Wisconsin, Illinois. Totally. They're top 5, 6, 8 teams in the Big Ten. They should be in the tournament. I don't need to see the 9th, 10th, 11th best team in Empower Conference in the tournament. They've already proven they are not one of the best teams in the country, just by virtue of where they're finishing in their league. So that's how I feel about it. Again, like if you are interested and you're a geek like me, you can totally go into this bracketologist.com. I want to look at Georgia, see how with them. Do they have a higher net? Overall record is better. To me, they're more deserving. So because their strength of schedule isn't as good, but look at all their other metrics are close or ahead of Auburn. And then if that's the case, again, they're 10-7 in quad 1 and 2. Auburn doesn't belong on this bubble. Let's talk specifically about Santa Clara because I really like their team. They are 34th in KenPom. I love that metric. They are in the top 4 of this group in net. They are 28th in Torvik. That is the highest amongst this group of 8. Strength of schedule isn't there because they play in the West Coast Conference. Wins above bubble is 40, which is where you want to be in that 40 range or better. They are 22-6. They are 8-5 in quad 1, quad 2. When you look at Santa Clara's record and their resume, and I'm looking here at KenPom, lost to St. Louis, probably a tournament team, probably going to win the A10. Lost to New Mexico, bubble team. Arizona State by 3, neutral court. Their bad loss is Loyola. Otherwise, it's Gonzaga. They are 23-6 with 3 losses to teams in the top 30 in KenPom. I want to see this team play. They're fun to watch. They shoot the ball well. They put up a ton of threes. They got some physicality. They got some size. Like, these are the teams I want to see. I don't need to see more Ohio State and Indiana. So that's my take. I feel like March Madness is made for these mid-majors and made for those moments. And I know the power conference teams are trying to squeeze them out, but I really want to see this type of team in March. And I think that's just the sad part about it when it comes down to it. So give me these 21 teams. Give me the guys who finish near the top of their league. It actually shows me that they're deserving of a chance to win a title. It's time to stop rewarding mediocrity with the NCAA tournament. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. But definitely give me more mid-majors. Give me the underdogs. Give me Cinderella when it comes to March Madness. All right, so that's the episode today. Talked heavy college basketball, talking top 10 and my bubble teams, mid-majors versus power conference teams, and some of the criteria that's being used to evaluate that, and obviously my big opinions on who should be in and what should be valued there. But thanks again for joining. Thanks for listening. Big show coming up. Got a couple of guests. Got a Division III coach joining me on Sunday. I won't tell you who yet, but make sure you check that episode out. And then I'm hoping to get on one of the top-ranked AA teams in the state of Minnesota, their head coach joining me as well, hopefully soon. And then next show will be March 1st. Huge day. Greatest time of the year. Get excited. Get ready. March Madness is nearly upon us. Thanks for listening. This has been the Splash City Basketball Podcast.
Bagging and bagging and bagging.